I was married in 1918. 1917. I must be 1917.
17. So
And that was in...
we're talking about 1917 and 1918.
I'll take 1985 and take 17...
oh, here you go. Give me a pencil.
Well, Dad, you were born in 1918.
Yeah, right. So it had to be
1918.
Had to be 1917.
1917 when we were married in June, and you were born in August 16th, 1918.
Yeah.
In
all right.
August.
Okay. All right.
A year and a couple of months.
Yeah.
So it was very, very legitimate.
Right. No problem.
No. Oh, I'll tell you, this is a long story.
Okay. So there you are, and he hasn't proposed yet, though.
No. Well, you would be a fool to do that right away.
Yeah, I know.
So that was, so when I came home, the day of my birthday, there I saw a great big bouquet of flowers in the window, in the bay window we had. We had a bay window on the east side of the house. And I thought, what's the occasion? Flowers? When I got in, my mother said, your boyfriend sent these. It's their birthday, and I think there was at least 2 dozen of carnations, even possibly 3, but I know there were 2 dozen carnations, beautiful pink carnations. And of course my mother had him in some sort of receptacle, I can't remember, but I, of course, after that bought a beautiful vase, which my daughter now has, Marie, a black vase with little rosebuds on it, a very pretty vase that complemented the bouquet. And of course I thanked him for it when he called. So that was the first gift I would say I got from him.
Grandma, excuse me, what was Grandpa doing at that time?
He was already in business with Uncle Alphonse, his brother. He was already in business at that time.
Oh, the one that we saw.
Yeah. And previous to that, he had worked for the Link Belt Company on Clinton Street, near Jackson, Clinton and Jackson.
Well, they must have been doing pretty well.
No, what was that? That wasn't Canal. What was that? The street? Clinton and something else.
Yeah.
Where the Mercantile Bank was.
Yeah,
right?
that's Clinton and Jackson.
Clinton and Jackson.
Because he was, he made the one of the first...
It was a street next to Jackson Boulevard.
Yeah.
But
Clinton runs this way, and Jackson runs this way.
Well, they were on Clinton, and it was near the street where the Union Station is.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Clinton and Jackson.
Well, that's Canal and Clinton. The Union Station is at Canal and Clinton. The one side is Canal, and what's the next street?
Jackson.
To the south. No, to the west.
Oh, west
of Canal. Clinton was the street they were on, but...
Clinton runs north and south.
Oh, well, then that was it, yeah. Well, then the next street, back of the Mercantile Building. Yeah, whatever that was, I know.
Right.
Well, that was the way he worked. And then they went into business together, Al and him. But he was in business at that time when I married him.
Yeah. He was on a lathe, wasn't he? And he used to pump a lathe with his foot.
I don't know, but then he was at some sort of a drill machine or some kind.
Yeah, it was a lathe.
But they made belts. They made belts at that Link Belt Company. That's where they all worked. Louis Gits and Al and him, I think they all worked at the
They did work for Link Belt?
Link Belt.
I never knew that.
Yeah, Link Belt was what they worked for. And somehow or other they got the idea there, or whatever the connection was with the oil company. Don't ask me. That's back in my mind somewhere. And anyway, the next thing was Christmas. And of course, previous to that, he said, what would you like to have for Christmas? I said, nothing. And he says, don't you have a desire for something? I said, no. He says, well, I've got to get you something. I said, no, you don't. So he didn't get any answer from me as far as the gift was concerned. But when the Christmas approached, and when he called, he gave me a little package. He said, here, this is for you. And when I opened it, there's a lovely little lavalier. Don't ask him where it is now.
Is that the one you had on when you had the picture?
No.
No, another one.
It was a gold, little
I think the last was, Dad proposed, relax. You want a drink?
No.
Huh?
No. I'm just trying to figure out what I talked about the last time I got the camera.
You never did give us a certain, did Dad propose the night you found the Valentine hearts?
No.
Relax, you got it. There you go.
No, we had another date.
Yeah.
And I forgot just what the occasion was, but on our way home, why, he asked if I would accept something. I says, that all depends on what it is.
Was that the locket?
No, that was the ring.
Oh! This was after the Valentine thing?
No, this is after my birthday.
Yeah?
That was in February, so this must have happened sometime around Easter, I think. That he presented it just shortly after my birthday. And I said it all, as I said, it all depended on what it was. And so then he, mentioned the fact that it was an engagement ring. And I, being a very practical Catholic, and realizing that he was a little older than I was a little bit aware of the fact that it's possible that he just may not be quite the father of children that we would have. So I said, well, I would accept with one condition, that if we were to have a family, that's what it was to be. Well, you know what his answer was. That was the kind of a girl he wanted.
What he said?
Not in those words. I mentioned it differently to the kids. I thought afterwards I should have kind of feathered it up a little bit. So the contract was signed right then and there.
And the deal was made?
That was it.
Well, then did you set the date right then, or?
No, I didn't. He would like to have been married a little sooner, and I said, oh no, not that soon. Well, you mentioned the time, and you said that'll be it. So I think I kind of figured it out a little bit. And I said June 12th would be about the earliest time I would consider being married.
And then? So
that was it. I said, I imagine I said sometime in June. And so I finally set the date as the 12th of June.
Okay.
So the next thing to consider was, of course, as to just what sort of an affair it would be. And, of course, I had been in the choir at St. Gall's Parish, singing the High Mass, trudging back and forth every Sunday across the prairies and Friday nights for choir practice, walking in the middle of the streets because you had no sidewalks leading to the church. Down Kildare had sidewalks, but 55th didn't, and that was our path of travel. So we had to walk in the middle of the street to get down to the church. But many a time we enjoyed, especially at Christmas time, when my father hitched up the horse and took us to Christmas Mass at 5 o'clock in the morning in the truck.
What kind of a horse did he have?
A nice one.
Is it?
Yeah.
And a wagon?
A wagon. And it was really very enjoyable. And we sang the early Mass, and then the director of the choir, who lived close by, had us in for breakfast, and then we sang the 10 o'clock Mass. So I would say that all the way through, I was a practical Catholic. And we enjoyed it. We really did. So anyway.
So did Dad go to Mass regularly then?
Your father? He was a good Catholic, religious Catholic all his lifetime, I'm sure, with his sister as a nun. And his mother, who went to Mass every single morning. And of course, I had my grandmother of years past, when she was in America after a trip from Europe, stayed with us for a year. And she went to Mass every morning.
Is that picture there about what he looked like when he proposed to you?
No, this was a very early picture.
Before that?
Yeah, it took 9 years, and that makes quite a difference. No, this was way before I ever met him.
Oh, okay, well then, no. What, do we have something that was, oh, well what about this?
That, where the family, no, that wasn't either, that was a very early picture.
How about that?
No, that's about the same age as this.
Is it?
That must have been about 20 years before I met him.
Really? Oh no, he's be 9 years old.
Well, that was at least about 15 years, I'll bet you, before I met him.
Let's give it.
Because this is really in the 1800s and something.
So he proposed, and then what?
Well, then we made plans for the wedding, and so we decided, that is, my mother and I decided, that we'd have a breakfast after the wedding ceremony, and we asked the Mass to be very early because we wanted to take a motor trip
Wildlife, real good. Go ahead.
up to Wisconsin, where his sister was a nun. That's what they call the Institute at Green Bay, Wisconsin, known as Base Settlement. So we had an 8 o'clock wedding Mass.
That's where Sister Helen was?
At the Institute, they called it Institute. It was a home for children that,
Yeah, was Sister Helen there?
yes.
Was she?
She was a nun there. So we wanted to get an early Mass so we could get an early start. And so we requested an early Mass at church.
All right, let's get a shot of the wedding picture. Want to hold that? Wait. Hold the wedding picture up. Yeah. That's it.
Wait till I get that. Eat that. Well, get up a little higher. There. Wait a minute, let me get it straight.
No, kind of hold it. There. Okay, now that, you were how old?
I was a couple of months over 22 years of age.
And he was 29. Right? Okay, go ahead. Leave the wedding picture while you're talking now.
Well, we had an early Mass, and when it got to the church, the pastor who was in charge, who was Father, I think it was Carol, asked if we wouldn't want to have a high Mass, because I was a member of the choir, and the choir had patiently waited for me to arrive to see if I wouldn't have a high Mass instead of a low Mass. And I says,
Try sitting it down. There.
you can't. Your picture's being taken, you'll have to cut it out. I can hold it on top here.
No, you move when you...
Well, no, I'll hold it
Here,
on top of the
steady
book.
now.
I'll hold it on top of the book, not up in the air.
Oh, all right.
If you can get your camera so you can take it
Yeah.
that way.
There we go.
Yeah. So I said, no, we wanted an early Mass. We were a little disappointed that we had an Mass. And of course, knowing the pastor, why he's wished us the best of wishes after serving communion. That's better. That's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we went home and had breakfast at our house. And Daddy had a taxi drive him to the house because he didn't trust driving the car himself. So we rode back in the taxi to where his car was parked in the garage on the west side. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of Austin. And from there on, we drove to Racine, Wisconsin. But in the meantime, some of the guests, who of course were always up to doing tricks at wedding parties, wanted to know where my baggage was. And my mother, of course, inquired just for what reason. Well, I guess they must have confided that they wanted to kind of play some little tricks on us. And Mother said, oh, she has took so much effort in pressing everything, putting everything in place. So they say they relented and didn't do anything, but they did something equally as bad. They got the Racine Hotel.
Okay, you dropped it.
Dropped it. And whoever the person was that lifted the luggage must have thought that we were moving a house. We got up in our room, and I opened up my baggage, and there was a brick in it.
in yours? Not in his?
No, he didn't bring his luggage, you know. As I told you, he brought the taxis, the no luggage in that taxi. He was smart. He wasn't so dumb. Side curtains were on. And we both wore dusters, light tan dusters. Oh, that picture, I don't know where that is. I should have had that. I can't find it right now. You should have told me in advance. And if we were taken in front of the car with our dusters on. And when we got to Wisconsin, of course, you see, I had breakfast, but not enough to really sustain me because I still had to do some little chores, like getting the last-minute notices of our announcements, rather, of our marriage to people who had not been invited to the breakfast because it was a family breakfast. And so we were a little rushed for time. And I became a little bit, due to all the strain and stress of the event, I became a little bit, I would say, faint. And I said, I've got to have something to eat. So this was I guess it was sort of in the middle of farmland in Wisconsin. And he says, well, I'll get out. And he says, we'll see if we can get something at the farmer. So he got out and went to the farmer, and he asked him for some eggs. I don't know whether they were cooked.
How was he going to fry them?
I don't know. All I know is that I had black glasses or dark glasses on, and whatever it was, I can't remember, but there was something wrong with those eggs. Maybe he told the woman to cook them before he got them, because I looked at the date and I said, were they green?
Oh.
He says, take off your glasses. So that was the first experience. Then we drove on to the next town, and of course by that time it was rather late in the day, and the dinner hour at the different restaurants were, of course, rather close. So I forgot now whether we got any more to eat that night or not, but that was the experience of our honeymoon. Well, we got to Sturgeon Bay. We stopped there, and of course, I forgot what the hotel was, the name of the hotel, but it was in Sturgeon Bay. So from there on, we drove on to the Institute place where we were going to meet Sister Helen. And there were 3 sisters there in charge of this school where these children were boarded. And of course, Sister Teresa was the oldest sister there, and she was the former teacher he had in grade school in Deep Pier, Wisconsin, when he went to St. Norbert's School there. And of course, she was up on her toes, and she said, where's your baggage? And Marie said, Gits says, oh, we have it at the hotel. She said, why didn't you bring it here? And he says, well, we just thought we'd go back to the hotel and stay for the night. Oh, no, you're coming right back here. Nothing would do, but we had to go get the baggage and come back to the institute.
Spend your honeymoon in a
We spent the honeymoon
monastery?
And they were well prepared. They had double beds.
Oh, no. Oh, well.
Oh, she wasn't asleep. And Sister Delphine was the other sister. Very, very patient individual and very kind. And anyway, we spent the night there. He had to go back with that baggage. He wouldn't have it otherwise. I guess she was kind of a superior that would saw that things were obeyed according to her command. And so while we were there, why, of course, he felt very much to home with his sister, and of course the sisters who had schooled him, you might say. And so we wanted to see the cellar. And Sister Delphine said, oh, he says, let me get down the cellar and want to see what goodies you have. So we went down the cellar, and of course he had all homemade cookies and home preserved fruits and whatnot, so he could have his choice of what he liked for dinner. So we stayed there for a couple of days, and then he played baseball with the boys that were there, and really had a good time. And of course the sister saw to it that I was made very comfortable and entertained. And then we went to visit the the pastor that visited there to say Mass on Sundays. And then at the same time they took it down to Fish Creek to see some more of the sisters that had another convent down there. Well, we had a good time. They weren't asleep.
Well, yeah, kind of a, well, you're spending a honeymoon at a convent. That was pretty much,
wasn't too bad.
It was pretty cheap out there.
I don't know what anybody else could have done any different than what we did.
Just in at a different place, that's all.
And so we really, I guess we were there just a couple of days, not more than about 4 or 5 days, I believe.
Was Dad in business with Al at this time?
Yes.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yes.
And they were working out of, where, off Clinton, weren't they? Second floor up there?
Yes, they must have been.
Yeah.
They must have been somewhere. They weren't on Kilbourne at that time, or what was that? No, I forgot just. They must have had it some other place, but I can't recall where it was. Well, isn't that funny? I was too busy. I guess starting the housekeeping.
Now, okay, now you, honeymoon is over.
Yes.
And you're back home, going to work. He goes back to work. And
well, in the meantime, before...
Where'd you live?
Well, let me go go back a little bit. He lived with his brother and Aunt Valley, Alphonse's wife. Valley, her Vandewaer was her maiden name, and she married his brother, Alphonse. So he boarded with Alphonse and Valley Gits in order to be able to put more money into the business. He paid the board. And Valley was a bookkeeper of the business at the time. But of course, I never entered into the business that time. She was there until they moved to Kilbourne, and then of course the arrangement was different. She never served it in that capacity on Kilbourne Avenue. It was only in their former business location.
Yeah.
And that was the way they said. And of course, Daddy was in charge of the payroll. And every Friday night he would have his little book, which was no more than about, I would say, 4 by 8 inches in size, marking down the different wages of the men and going to the Pinkert Bank for their payroll.
Oh, and 22nd there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22nd.
And where did Valley live?
She lived down it was somewhere either Kildare or something like that in Austin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about, further north, 4,000 something, near Crawford.
Okay. Now, after your marriage, what was the next big event? Do you remember the problem they had when all the automobile companies changed to grease fittings?
No, but I do know that the oil cups were the first thing, and we used to go to the automobile shows for that reason.
Yeah.
Always held in February. And that and a vacation in August of about 1 week was all the time that they ever took off. That was the limit of their time away from the plant.
Now, okay, what was the next big thing that happened? You had your first child, that was me.
Yeah. Yes, that was August the 16th.
Okay, what was,
You were born, that was Ramey. And of course, since your father's name was Ramey, I named you Ramey Jr. And Dr. Stackable, who was our doctor, says, I don't know whether I'd name him Junior. We said, why? You don't know how much difficulty there is in the name of Junior.
You know, doctors, they're self-appointed geniuses on everything,
And
including
so
naming children.
I say, of course, insisted that that was the name I wanted for it. So that's the way you were registered, as I remember, in Chicago.
Nobody ever called. Who called my dad Ramey? You didn't call him Ramey. You called him Ray, right?
I didn't call him Ray. I was called. Well, when I spoke to people, I called him Ray, because that's what he used to be called Ray by everybody.
Yeah.
They'd say, right. I remember when that party was held for him, or rather not that I attended, and he came in. Everybody said, "Where's Uncle Ray?" Because he was uncle to Rose and Louise and Florence, and every Sunday night.
I got that reflection out of your glasses. You know what it was?
No.
That light right down there. You see, I blocked up the window.
Oh. Well, that's what I thought. I told you that before. Shall we close those windows at the other end? And you didn't think that was the reason for it.
Well, okay. So anyway, we got.
So anyway, every Sunday night he used to have dinner with the family.
This is a real good light. You're going to like this.
With the Vandewaer family. His sister Selena would have in for dinner on Sunday night.
Did his mother call him Ramey?
Remy.
Oh.
Remy. She used to call her Remy.
Did anybody?
That was the French way of pronouncing his name, Remy.
Was his mother and father at your wedding?
Wait, I want to tell you. Then, no. Oh, I got ahead of that.
Yeah.
I have to track back a little bit.
Okay.
When we became engaged, his mother happened to, she was in De Pere, living in De Pere at the time, and Sister Helen, of course, had entered the convent, and the boys, all her sons, had come to Chicago to make their living. So she lived there alone in De Pere, close to the convent of the sisters in De Pere. And they had noticed that she wasn't feeling too well, and that she thought she was losing weight. And so they called the boys and said they thought possibly they should have the mother come to Chicago because she wasn't being properly fed or cared for. So they arranged to have her come to Chicago, and she lived with Louis, the oldest member of the family. So she lived there for quite a number of years, and then of course when we became engaged, why, your father wanted her to see me, introduce me, so we paid her a visit one evening, and as we came into the room, and he introduced me as his engaged fiancé, she said, "That's the girl for you," without any hesitation. Mm-hmm. So with the okay of that, I guess that was it. Then, of course, after we were married, we again paid her a visit, all dressed in my wedding dress. And my dress had a little arrangement, like a separate little apron with a little lace edging on it, on top of the bodice of the skirt. And she lifted up and said, "Oh, isn't that pretty? A little apron." With that, why, we left then and were on our way to the finish of our wedding day.
Okay, so that's now we're back to, you're in the apartment now, and you've just had your first child, which was me, and
yes, and then we took you to church to be baptized, and Father Sullivan, who used to be at St. Rita's on 63rd Street, was then pastor of the Resurrection Parish, and we presented the name that you were to be baptized, and he looked at it and he says, "Ramey, that's not a saint's name." And I said, "Oh, yes, Father. That's taken from the saint's name of Remigius." "Oh."
You bought that, huh?
Yeah. I said, "That's just..."
Was there anything that you were, Ramey was a common name in Belgium, apparently, or was it?
Well, not exactly.
Well, where did Dad get the name?
Well, he got it from, I think, an uncle that possibly was named Ramey.
Okay.
Because in Europe, they always name children after the aunts and the uncles favorably.
Yeah.
That's why Aunt Julia has so much trouble with her family, because they're all named after some member of the family.
I won't ask you what her trouble is.
But then when the second baby was born, I thought, well, now I'll just run right through the family, and I thought that it would be nice to have the grandfathers represented, and so that's how and the grandmothers. So that's how I named Marie.